They said the boy couldn't speak, but that wasn't true. He just didn't speak with sound. He spoke with silence, with his eyes, with the way his hands moved across the piano, not pressing the keys but almost coaxing them like he was asking the music for permission. And no one ever listened until Lily Harper wasn't supposed to be a troublemaker. She didn't talk much, didn't raise her hand, didn't wear the kind of sneakers the other girls wore or carry the right backpack with the shiny charms dangling off the zipper. She was just the new girl, the quiet one, the poor one. 13 years old with a tangle of sun-browned hair, oversized, sweaters and eyes that looked like they'd seen more than a child ever should. She came to the school after the storm. Katrina had taken everything except her voice and her grandmother's lullabies. And most days she kept both to herself. But something about the boy at the back of the room made her look twice. His name was Elliot. He was always there before everyone else, always gone before the bell. He didn't talk, didn't laugh, didn't meet anyone's gaze. They said his voice was broken, that something was wrong with him since birth. But Lily watched. She saw how he tapped rhythms with his fingers on the desk during music class, how his mouth moved slightly when the choir sang, how he sat straighter when a melody hit the right chord. One day, in the hallway near the water fountains where lockers creaked and sneakers squeaked and no one really looked, he passed her a note, just 4 words. "Will you sing with me?" She stared at it for a long time. There was no name, no explanation. Just the shaky curve of someone who hadn't written for others in a while. She looked up. Elliot was watching her from across the hall, not smiling, not begging, just waiting. That afternoon, the wind picked up and shook the windows of the music room. Leaves scraped the sidewalk like whispers no one wanted to hear, and somewhere deep inside her, in the part of her heart that still remembered what it felt like to sing in the dark, when the hurricane was howling outside and only the sound of her voice could calm her grandmother's trembling hands, Lily folded the note and tucked it into her pocket. She didn't answer. Not yet. But something had shifted. In her, in him, in the silence between them. They said the boy couldn't speak, but maybe he was just waiting for someone who would finally sing back. Lily Harper didn't belong in this town, not to the neat sidewalks, not to the brick school with its rows of clean lockers and clipped lawns, not to the girls who whispered in huddles, or the boys who played ball in shirts that didn't come from the church donation box. She belonged to the wind, the kind that tore roofs off houses and names off mailboxes, the kind that whispered lullabies through broken windows when everything else had fallen apart. After the storm, her grandma brought her here, to this town with its smiles too bright and silence too sharp. They moved into a FEMA trailer at the edge of a church parking lot. The air still smelled like wet plaster and mildew, but it was dry. It was safe. It wasn't home. At school, Lily kept her head down. The cafeteria was too loud, the classrooms too clean, the girls too pretty. Her voice, that soft, soulful thing that once filled their shotgun house with music, felt out of place here, too fragile. She didn't speak unless called on, didn't sing, not anymore. But every night when her grandma combed her hair by the window and told stories in that drawl worn smooth by time and sorrow, Lily felt the songs stir again. They weren't pop songs, not radio hits. They were old. Songs sung over washboards and dinner tables, sung by women with tired hands and men who wore their hats even when they prayed. And when the wind picked up just right, Lily would step outside, let the trailer door creak shut behind her, and hum. Not loudly, not bravely, but enough. Enough for the wind to carry it across the gravel lot and into the woods behind the school. Enough for the stars to hear. She didn't know anyone was listening. Not until Elliot, the boy who didn't speak, the boy who always walked alone, his footsteps soft like he was afraid of waking something. One day after class, she forgot her scarf. In the music room, when she returned, the lights were off, but the piano was playing. Not loudly, not showy, just a gentle lullaby. It stopped when she opened the door. Elliot sat there, frozen, hands still on the keys. Their eyes met. He didn't run, didn't smile, just looked at her as if waiting. And Lily, without thinking, whispered, "That was beautiful." He blinked, then nodded, slowly, like someone who hadn't been understood in a very long time. She walked out without saying more. But something followed her home that day, a feeling light as dust, that maybe her voice wasn't lost. Maybe it was waiting, just like him. Sometimes the quiet ones recognize each other, not through words, but through the echoes they leave in the air. It arrived on a Tuesday, folded into a triangle, slipped under her math book during recess. Lily didn't see who placed it there, but the handwriting was shaky, not messy, just careful. Like every letter had been thought through 100 times before landing on paper. She opened it. "I want to play piano for the talent show. Will you sing with me?" Elliot. That was it. No name, no greeting, just the ask. She stared at it for a long while, her pencil still hovering above a half-finished equation. The words felt heavier than they should, heavier than ink, because she knew what this meant, what they would say. People didn't sit with Elliot. They didn't invite him to parties. They didn't even talk to him unless they had to. He was the mute boy, the glitch, the mystery no one wanted to solve. And Lily. She was just barely invisible enough to survive. She tucked the note into her front pocket and didn't answer. Not yet. But that night, she couldn't sleep. She kept seeing Elliot's hands on the keys. The way the music felt like it was asking something. The way it sounded like it had been waiting years to be heard. Her grandma noticed. "You're humming in your sleep again, baby girl." Lily rolled over. Didn't say anything. The next day, whispers followed her through the hallway. They started small. "Did you hear? She's gonna sing with him." Like, him. And then came the laughter. The cruel kind, soft at first, then louder when it got permission. At lunch, a girl with pink nails and a silver necklace leaned over Lily's tray. "Hey, just so you know, if you go up there with that freak, don't bother sitting with us after. You'll be one of them." Lily didn't answer. Another boy chimed in. "She probably likes him, mute romance or something." Laughter. The words didn't cut as much as the eyes. The way people looked at her now, not with pity but with warning. You don't link yourself to the broken, not if you want to make it through middle school alive. That afternoon, Elliot was waiting by the fence behind the music room. He had another note. He didn't hand it to her, he just held it out. She took it, unfolding slowly. "We don't have to. Just thought you might understand." Her hands trembled slightly. She wanted to say yes, she wanted to stand on that stage and let the music speak for them both. But the voices in her head, the ones that sounded too much like the lunch table. "Girls," I whispered, "don't do it. Don't be seen with the boy no one hears." She looked up at him and lied. "I don't know yet." He nodded once, eyes unreadable, then turned and walked away, the kind of walk that's used to being left behind. That night, Lily sat at the edge of her cot in the trailer, the wind rustling through the plastic vents. Unfolded both notes again and read them slowly, as if reading music. And for the first time in weeks, she didn't hum. She just sat in silence, listening. To the part of herself that was no longer sure who she was most afraid of losing. The world's approval, or her voice. Sometimes the bravest choice isn't saying yes, it's daring to not say no. The music room wasn't locked. That's how it started. Late afternoon, the halls were quiet. The sun was low, slanting through the dirty glass and painting long shadows across the tiled floor. Lily stood in the doorway, her heart in her throat. Elliot was already there, at the piano, hunched slightly, like he was afraid the instrument might reject him. She didn't say anything, just stepped inside, slowly, carefully, like entering someone's memory. He looked up. No smile, no wave, just a single nod. And then he shifted slightly to the left on the bench. An invitation. Lily sat beside him. It was awkward at first, the kind of silence that isn't empty, but full of nerves and unsaid things. Elliot reached into his backpack and pulled out a piece of sheet music. Handwritten, worn, creased. He placed it in front of them and gently tapped the corner. Then, without a sound, he began to play. Soft. Simple. A waltz, almost. Something old, maybe. Or maybe just something personal. The chords were delicate, like lace unraveling, and Lily listened. For a moment, that was enough. But then, quietly, like the beginning of a secret, she opened her mouth and sang, just a few notes breathier than she meant, wobbly, like she was afraid someone might hear, but Elliot didn't flinch. He just kept playing, and she kept singing. Bit by bit, the tremble in her voice softened. The notes found footing. The room grew warmer. Not in temperature, but in presence. The way forgotten spaces do when something beautiful happens inside them. Outside the window, the branches swayed. Dust floated in the air, caught in the light like tiny ghosts. And for the first time in what felt like forever, Lily didn't think about what the other kids would say. Didn't think about being poor. Didn't think about how Elliot didn't speak. She just sang. And he played. No words, no rules, just the sound of two quiet souls finding a place to meet. When the final chord faded, neither of them moved. Lily looked at him. "Can we do it again?" Elliot nodded, and they did, again and again, until the sun dipped completely behind the hill and the room was painted in blues and golds. That evening, as Lily walked back toward the trailer park, her voice felt different. In her throat, like it had been claimed, not by the world but by her. Some songs aren't meant for crowds. Some are meant to find the pieces of us we thought were gone. The next morning, Lily was called to the front office. She thought maybe she was in trouble. But instead, Mrs. Garrison, the school's music teacher, sat her down with a smile. A real one. "Lily, sweetie, are you and Elliot planning to perform together in the talent show?" Lily's mouth went dry. She hadn't signed up. Elliot hadn't either, but someone had heard them. "Don't worry," Mrs. Garrison added quickly. "I think it's wonderful. The sign-up sheet's still open, and we'd love to feature something different this year, something true." Lily nodded slowly, unsure what else to do. As she stepped back into the hallway, her hands shook. Not from fear, not yet, but from the terrifying weight of being seen. At lunch, it began again. Only this time, the whispers weren't just cruel. They were dangerous. "She's really gonna do it. With him? I heard she sings good, but not that good. She's just doing it to get attention." Lily kept her eyes on her tray. She could feel their stares crawling up her neck like heat. That afternoon, someone slipped a note into her locker. "Good luck embarrassing yourself, freak lover." No name, just a scrawl of venom wrapped in a folded threat. Later, behind the school, Elliot waited with his piano sheet in hand. Lily didn't meet his eyes right away. "They know," she murmured. He didn't write anything, didn't gesture, just stood there, waiting, quiet, still. "They're saying things. About you, about me." She hesitated. "About why I'd even want to sing with someone like you." The words tasted like betrayal. Elliot didn't flinch, but something in his expression dimmed, just for a moment. Then he handed her a fresh note. "Just one sentence, you don't have to, I'll understand." She stared at it, tears threatening the edge of her voice. She wanted to scream that of course she wanted to, that nothing mattered but the music, that she didn't care what they said, but she didn't scream. She folded the note in half, tucked it into her pocket, and said nothing. That night, her grandma noticed the silence again. "You're quieter than usual," she said, handing Lily a bowl of soup. Lily stirred it slowly. "People are mean at school," the old woman chuckled. Not with humor, but with something more tired. "They always are, especially when they see something good and don't know how to reach it." Lily looked up. "Do you think I should sing with someone who can't talk?" Her grandma set the spoon down. "Honey, if he's got something worth hearing and you're the one who can help the world hear it, then not doing it would be the real crime." Lily lay in bed that night with both notes beside her pillow, one from Elliot, one from the locker, one filled with fear, one filled with faith, and somewhere beneath her ribs, a quiet beat began to rise, uncertain, but growing. Not a decision, not yet, but the start of one. Before the bravest moment comes the quiet, the ache, the question, do I choose fear or do I choose the song? The list went up on Thursday, right outside the auditorium. Dozens of names printed and posted. Solos, duets, dance troupes, magic acts. At the bottom, barely noticeable, was theirs. Lily Harper and Elliot Ford. Vocal, piano duet, someone had added. A little star next to it. A teacher maybe. Or maybe someone who still believed. Lily stared at it for a long time. So long that the hallway emptied around her. So long that she forgot to breathe. That evening she didn't go to practice. She told herself she was tired. Told herself Elliot would understand. But deep down she knew. She was afraid of the whispers, afraid of the laughs, afraid of walking onto that stage and hearing not applause but laughter. Or worse, nothing. The next day, Elliot didn't wait for her behind the school, didn't send a note, didn't look at her when she passed him in the hallway. He just kept his head down, like always. But this time, it felt different. Like the space between them wasn't just quiet, it was empty. That night, Lily sat at the small kitchen table, her untouched dinner growing cold. Her grandma was humming softly at the sink, a tune Lily recognized. One of the old ones, one they used to sing together when the wind howled outside the boarded windows of their old house, and the world felt like it might collapse. Lily opened her mouth to join in, but the note caught in her throat, like it didn't belong to her anymore. The next morning, she found another note in her locker. It wasn't cruel, just final. "It's okay, I'll drop out. I think you should still sing. They'll listen to you." No signature, but it didn't need one. At home that night, Lily sat on her cot, hugging her knees, the silence pressing in like humidity after a storm. She tried singing just to herself, just one line. Her voice cracked not because her throat hurt, not because she was sick, but because something was missing. She hadn't just turned away from Elliot. She had turned away from her voice, the one that meant something, the one that dared to rise, even when the world said, "You don't belong," she cried. Not loudly, just quietly, like someone mourning a part of themselves they'd buried too early. And outside, the wind brushed past the trailer windows, whispering through the screen like it was calling her name. Not every heartbreak is loud. Some happen in silence. Some sound like the song you never sang. The music room was empty on Sunday. No students, no teachers, just dust motes dancing in the shafts of early light and the faint smell of old wood and varnish. Lily stood at the door for a long time before pushing it open. She hadn't been here since she stopped coming to practice, hadn't let herself walk past this hallway, past that piano bench, past the echo of what they almost created together. But now, she needed to hear it again. She didn't know why. Maybe it was the silence at home. Maybe it was the way her grandma looked at her the night before, not with anger but disappointment so gentle it hurt worse. Or maybe it was the tiny flash drive she found in her backpack that morning. No note, no explanation. Just the word "listen" written in block letters on a strip of masking tape, Elliot's handwriting. She found an old laptop in the corner of the room, the kind the school never threw away, just forgot. It buzzed to life. Slowly, reluctantly, as if waking from sleep, she plugged in the drive. There was one file. First practice MP3. She clicked. It was rough, not tuned, not planned. The mic had picked up the creak of the bench, the scrape of her shoe against tile. A faint breath, a nervous hum. Then, the piano. Soft, unsure, but true. Then, her voice. Faint, at first, then stronger, then soaring. Lily covered her mouth with her hand. She'd forgotten how it sounded. Not perfect, not polished, but honest. She listened to the whole thing, twice, and on the third time, she sang along. Softly at first, then louder. Her voice cracked on the high note. She kept singing. When the file ended, the room was quiet again. But it wasn't the same kind of quiet. It was full of breath, full of memory, full of something coming alive. She stood up and walked to the piano. Sat down, put her hands on the keys. Didn't press them. Just let them rest there and whispered, "I'm sorry, Elliot." She pulled out her phone and typed a message, then deleted. Typed it again. Paused, then hit send. "If you still want to do this, I do too." She didn't expect a reply. Didn't need one. Because the truth was, she had already made her choice. She would sing, even if her voice trembled. Even if the world wasn't ready. Even if he never answered. Because the boy who never spoke had given her voice back. And this time, she wouldn't waste it. Some songs don't need to be perfect. They just need to be sung. The night of the talent show smelled like hairspray and cafeteria pizza. The auditorium buzzed with noise, shoes scuffing, programs crinkling, whispers building into quiet waves of anticipation. The house lights dimmed, and the MC stepped. On stage, beaming like this was Broadway. Backstage, Lily's palms were damp. Her knees shook beneath her borrowed dress, a faded blue one her grandma had pulled from the back of a closet. It used to belong to her mother. That made her hold herself straighter even when her stomach felt like a fist. Elliot stood beside her. He wore black pants, a white button-up, and the same expression he always did. Quiet, unreadable. But his fingers twitched softly at his sides like they were already playing something no one else could hear. They didn't speak. They didn't need to. The curtain parted after a juggling act and a boy singing off-key to a karaoke track. Then, next up, Lily Harper and Elliot Ford. The spotlight blinked on, and the murmurs started. You could hear it ripple through the crowd. Wait, him? Isn't that the mute kid? Oh no, this is gonna be awkward. Lily stepped forward first. Her heart beat so loudly she thought it might drown out the opening note. Elliot walked to the piano, sat down, and waited. Then his fingers moved, not rushed. Not showy, just like always, gentle, true. The music began, and Lily sang. The first note wasn't perfect. It caught in her throat for half a second. But Elliot didn't stop. He kept playing, and Lily found her breath. Then found the next note, and the next. By the second verse, something changed. The auditorium, buzzing just moments ago, was still, utterly still. No laughter, no whispering, just the sound of her voice. Warm, raw, real, and underneath it, the piano, like a heartbeat, near. The end of the song, the melody slowed. Lily stepped back. Elliot kept playing, and then he opened his mouth. No one expected it, not even her, just one note, rough, barely there. But his, a soft, low harmony, carried like a fragile bird across the silence. The crowd leaned forward. You could hear someone gasp. It wasn't loud, but it was everything. When the final chord rang out, Lily looked up. She didn't smile, didn't bow. She just reached out and took Elliot's hand, and the two of them stood there, side by side. For a moment, no one moved. Then, a sound. Hands, clapping slowly at first, then building, rising, filling the entire auditorium like thunder rolling across a wide, open sky. Some people stood, some cried. Most just stared like they were seeing something they didn't have words for. Lily didn't need a trophy, didn't need a ribbon. She just needed that moment, where everyone heard what she and Elliot had always known. Even silence has a voice, and sometimes it sings. The loudest songs aren't always the ones with the most sound. They're the ones that make the world stop and listen. Monday morning came with golden light and a stillness Lily hadn't felt in weeks. The air smelled like rain had passed through in the night. Leaves stuck to the pavement. The halls at school were quieter than usual. Not empty, just softer. Somehow. She stepped through the front doors, expecting the usual. Side glances, whispered jokes, that old ache of being watched and judged. But this time, no one laughed. A few kids looked up as she passed. Some nodded. One girl, the same one who used to twist her pink nails while mocking Elliot, actually smiled. Not fake. Not pitying. Just a smile. By her locker, Lily found a folded piece of paper. Her hands hesitated. Another note? But when she opened it, all it said was, "Thank you for showing us something real." No name. She didn't need one. In choir, the teacher paused before warm-ups. Mrs. Garrison looked at Lily like she was seeing her for the first time. "We'd like you to sing the opening solo for the spring concert if you're willing." Lily blinked. Her voice caught in her chest, not from fear this time, but from something quieter, something like peace. She nodded. "I'd like that." At lunch, Elliot sat alone, as always, near the back windows. But this time there was an empty chair beside him, and Lily didn't hesitate. She walked over, sat down, and set her tray next to his. No words, just presence. He looked at her, lifted one eyebrow slightly, his version of a smile, then reached into his backpack and pulled out a fresh sheet of music. It was blank, except for the title at the top. "New Song for Two Voices." She grinned and nodded. That afternoon, as the final bell rang and the halls spilled open, Lily stepped outside into the fading light. She looked up. The clouds were breaking apart. Not gone, but softer. Like the sky was finally learning how to breathe again. And her? She wasn't afraid of being heard anymore. She wasn't afraid of being seen, because now she knew. Her voice was more than just sound. It was a place where others could find safety, where Elliot had found connection, where she had finally found herself. Sometimes it takes singing with someone who cannot speak to discover your own voice was never meant to stay small. The week passed, slowly, quietly. The buzz of the talent show faded like all school events do. The hallway whispers moved on to new rumors, new jokes, new people to stare at. But not everything went back to how it was, because something, small but real, had changed. On Friday, just before the last bell, Mrs. Garrison stopped Lily at the door. "I found this," she said, handing over a small cassette tape in a cracked plastic case. No label, just a little yellow sticker on the corner. "Keep." Lily smiled. She knew what it was. That night, Lily didn't sit at the kitchen table. She didn't hum by the window. She walked outside with the old cassette player from her grandma's closet and sat at the back steps, feet brushing the grass, stars slowly blinking into the sky above the trailer park. She pressed play. The piano started. Then, her voice. And in the middle of the second verse, faint but unmistakable, his Elliot. That single fragile harmony. She closed her eyes. Didn't cry, didn't speak, just let it play. Somewhere behind her, the door creaked open. Bare feet stepped down beside her. Elliot sat, didn't say a word. He just sat. Their shoulders touched slightly. The song reached its final note. Silence settled in. Not heavy, not empty. Just full. Full of all the things they never had to say. Lily turned her head. Elliot was already looking at her. No smile, no words, just eyes that knew. And in the soft light of the stars, Lily reached out and took his hand. He didn't flinch. He didn't look away. He just held on, like music that didn't want to fade. Some voices don't echo. They stay, even after the song is over. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Because somewhere out there, someone else needs to hear that even a silent voice can change everything.